Healthy Mom for Junkfoodkids. Today I'm canning some tomatoes. I started canning a while ago, so I'm kind of prepped up. I've got about 20 pounds of tomatoes over here to the side, and right now I'm blanching them so we can get the skin off of them. So I'm going to take a couple of tomatoes, put them in our boiling water. Water here with my tomatoes. I probably should get an apron. They only need to stand for about 10 seconds. And then we're going to take them out and we're going to cut away any bad parts. We are also going to take the skin off. And we're going to de-seed them so we can get them ready for our tomato sauce. These are canning tomatoes that I got from the farmer's market. They are really actually nice tomatoes. Usually your canning tomatoes that you get from the farmer's market have a lot of blemishes. They're not really pretty. They have things you need to cut off of them. These are pretty nice. I found a farmer that I really like. He sells his canning tomatoes in 20-pound boxes. So last week I did a box of 20 pounds of tomatoes and made salsa. Lovely bowl of tomato. A two-step process here. I am going to take the skin off, and then I'm going to de-seed them at the same time and put them right into my Ninja. You can use a Cuisinart if you want. You can use a blender. I'm using my Ninja. I like my Ninja better. It's more watertight. My food processor is not very watertight. So let me grab my Ninja, and we are going to start filling that up as we go ahead and take care of how nicely that comes off. You just need to put them in like 10 seconds, and look at that. That skin will just peel right off. Now I'm going to cut these in half, and I am going to squeeze out my seeds. The seeds are kind of bitter. You shouldn't have to squeeze them too much. If you cut them in half, kind of through their waist instead of through the stem, and the seeds should come out for you pretty easy. Now some of my tomatoes I've already trimmed. Anyway, as I was saying, I started because I found out about BPA being so bad for you that it causes cancer. And I am all about avoiding cancer. So I started doing my own tomatoes. My own canning of all kinds of things, actually. My kids think it's really fun. I even have a teenager that will come and hang out with me all day in the kitchen canning, which is a great thing to get your kids in the kitchen talking to you. I mean, how wonderful is that? They joke that our canning is our zombie apocalypse stash. Last week we did 24 cans of, well, jars actually. Now see, I'm trying to get that stem out. We don't want the nasty stem, so our tomatoes look really nice. 24 jars of salsa last week out of our 20 pounds of tomatoes. Okay. Now, I have a lot of tomatoes to go, so I will bear you some of the pain of watching me do all of them, and we will skip forward. Okay, now that my blender is full, I am going to add a few things. I want this to be a really light and fresh salsa. So I have some fresh basil that I have rinsed with water from my own potted garden. So I'm going to put 10 leaves and a heaping tablespoon of crushed garlic, or chopped garlic rather. If you don't want to chop it, you can just throw a couple cloves in, depending on how much you want in there. I'm going to put a little bit of salt. I don't like a lot of salt when I'm canning because I like to adjust the salt when I'm cooking a little bit more. And we're going to use citric acid here in a few minutes anyway. So, there we go. Now we're going to put the lid on here and we are going to blend. I blend mine pretty smooth because my kids don't like the chunks. Now, of course, if you wanted, you could absolutely just not add this garlic and the basil, and you could just go ahead and just do stewed tomatoes. Now, I have sanitized my jars. You have a couple of options for sanitizing your jars. I like to stick them inside my canning pot for 10 minutes after I've washed them with hot soapy water and sanitize them that way. But you also have the option of running them through the dishwasher on the sanitize option. You can do that. Now I'm going to put my flats and my rings in. You need to put your flats in so that they can be soft, otherwise they won't seal to your jars. So I'm going to drop these in so that they can get nice and soft. Okay, now I went ahead and put an apron on because it tends to get a little messy when you are adding your sauce to your jars. Taste it before we add it to our jars and see if we want to add anything. It's really nice and fresh. Now, obviously when I cook it, it's going to meld those flavors together and taste a lot better, but I'm not going to cook it because I like it to have like more of a fresh taste when I take it out of the jar to cook with it. Now, when you're doing this, whoops, I'm doing it wrong. Now, as you're filling your jar up, you want to use your little canning. Now, they sell a canning kit that comes with all these little supplies you're going to see. I don't even know what the names of all of these are. Anyway, this is a funnel, a canning funnel. But you want to fill this until you're about an inch up. You want to give enough room. This stuff you will see starts boiling in there, and really lots of bubbles are coming out. Now, before we go ahead and can this, we want to add 1 teaspoon of citric acid. Tomatoes are just not acidy enough to, you know, preserve themselves. So you want a little extra in there just in case. Citric acid is not bad for you, so it'll be fine. It's the same thing as what's in lemon juice. Now, I stirred that up. You want to make sure you don't have any bubbles in your jars. So I use this little tool that came in my canning kit, and that way I push everything around, and I know that everything doesn't have any bubbles, so I won't have like an explosion or a problem while I'm canning it. Off the rim of my jar. And the reason I want to do that is you want to make sure you don't have any cracks on your jar. Mine are all new because I haven't been canning that long. My friend Vicki got me started on canning, so I really just started this summer. But you want to make sure that it's clean so it forms a good seal when you put your lids on. So, let me grab a flat here. I'm going to set that down right on top. So while I was blanching all my tomatoes and doing all of that, I was boiling all of my jars and making sure they were sanitized. So here is a ring. It is going to be hot. And you want to put your ring on and twist that on so that it's nice and tight. And then unscrew it of my jars. And they are ready to go in my canning pot with boiling hot water. So, what you need to do, take your canning pot. Mine has a rack in it, and a lot of people like to pull the rack up and put the handles on the side of the pot. You know what? I just set mine down because I'm just not that coordinated. So anyway, I am going to, oops, I have my little grippers upside down. I am going to take my cans and I am gently going to set them down into the rack inside the pot. Now I have boiled off a lot of water because I was sanitizing all of my jars, so I'm definitely going to need to put some more water in here. So I have a pitcher over here. I'm going to grab my pitcher and fill up. You guys can see my jars. I'm going to fill up my pot. You need to have your water at least an inch above the lids. Now, it'll take a minute for this water to start to boil again because I'm adding in some more water. That's okay, though. I'm going to go ahead and put my lid on. It's going to help it start to boil faster. Now, I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes. And while I'm doing that, I am going to go and peel some more tomatoes and get them all ready to make some more sauce. Okay, so I'm going to pull them all out and set them right here on a clean white towel. Don't worry, they've separated a little bit, but you can shake them up after they've cooled off. It's just the juice and tomatoes. Now, what you need to make sure before you put your jars away is that all of them have popped. So now with pop, Oh, and there we go. It just pops so that that little bump in the middle goes down. If that doesn't go down after, a half hour, an hour or so, don't use it. Or what my other trick is I take the jar that didn't pop and I stick it in the refrigerator and I go ahead and use it that day or the next day because you've just made this. It's fresh. So there you go. Now, before you go, I would like you to not throw this away. Don't throw your scraps away. I have a plan for them. So before we move on to what we're going to do with our scraps, I want you to go ahead and label your jars. Some of my jars I'm doing with just some chopped tomatoes so that I can use them for chili or anything else I decide I want to use them for. This is going to be my tomato sauce though, my spaghetti sauce or red sauce or whatever you would like to label it. I have these cute little oval dissolvable labels. So once they get wet and they go through the dishwasher, they'll come right off your jars and you won't have to worry about them. You can reuse your jars. Now, when you're washing the jars, I'm going to show you this. I had some brand new jars today. I don't know if you can see, but this one is completely cracked. Now, if I tried to can with this jar, it would explode. So make sure your jars don't have any cracks or chips or anything like that. You want to keep canning safe. All right, so let's move on to what to do with your scraps because I have been sifting the scraps into a nice stock pot here through my sifter, the strainer that I have. You want to keep moving around, get all of the juices out. And I have quite a bit of juice in this pot. So what we're basically going to make, now you can stop at this point and cook it. I've had the simmering going on the whole time I've been going through each sifter of scraps. So it's already nice and hot. Now at this point, if you want to just reserve this and keep it as vegetable stock, you could absolutely make a vegetable stock right now. Just add some salt and there you go. I'm not huge on vegetable stock, so I'm going to add a tablespoon of chicken soup base. I love chicken soup base. I love the flavor. It gives everything. When you're cooking, if I'm going to use a soup base, even if it's a vegetable soup, I like to put a little chicken soup base in it. So I'm going to take my tomato stock that I've made here, and I have a jar with some organic chicken soup base, and I have a tablespoon right here. I'm going to put that in, and I'm going to stir that around in my pot. That way, I really like the flavor that the chicken soup stock gives the tomato stock. I think when it's all simmered together, it really tastes great. Now, at this point, I have quite a bit of stock in my pot here. And I'll try to show you how much I have. All right, so you can see I've got a lot of chicken soup stock. Now at this point you have a couple of options. You can either go ahead and freeze this. One of the ways you can freeze this is put this in ice cube trays, and once it is frozen, just break it up and put it into a Ziploc bag. And then you have some chicken soup stock, chicken tomato soup stock whenever you need it. That's if you use small amounts. If you use larger amounts of stock when you're making different dishes, go ahead and can it. Or if you want to go ahead and make something for dinner tonight, go ahead and use it now. Anyway, that was my little trick to do with your leftovers. We don't want to waste anything. And there you go. So now you know how to make some tomato sauce, fresh tasting tomato sauce. And now you know how to keep all your reserve and make yourself a nice. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. Please subscribe, and if you want to look for other recipes, I have lots of recipes at Junkfoodkids.com. Here are just a few last minute tips before I sign off for the night. Hershey and we're almost done for the day. One thing is, if you're not happy, if this separation makes you a little nervous, all you need to do is put your sauce in a saucepan and simmer it for about 15 minutes before you put it in your jar. And it will come out like this, and it won't be separated at all. It's your choice. It'll all reintegrate together when you go to cook it later. This just tastes a little bit more like fresh tomatoes when you don't cook it. But it's totally your choice. Save your jars, take care of them, make sure they're always sanitized, and have a great time cooking.